Hello, a very warm welcome in to the Dot Inc. webinar for May 2026. I'm Dave Williams, Customer Experience Manager with Dot. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to interacting with you over the next little while. In this webinar, we're going to be talking about using specialist apps to read on your dot pad, what they do, the differences between them, and where you might want to use one over the other. So the two apps that we're going to be focused on in this session are Dot Book, which is a free app available from Dot, and Dolphin EasyReader. Now, I've spoken in the past about other apps that I use, like Kindle, and I know some people use apps from NLS or other libraries and Bookshare and so on. So it's great that we've got those choices, but those other apps are kind of out of scope for this particular webinar, where we're going to be talking about Dot Book and Dolphin EasyReader. I also want to extend a very special welcome if you're joining us for the first time. We do aim to have a webinar each month where we take a deeper dive into some aspect of Dot's technology, whether that's hardware or software or work that we're doing with one of our partners. So look out for those announcements. You'll find them on your social media, in our newsletter, and on our blog. I'm going to introduce some of the members of the Dot team who are joining us on this session today. Some of the voices may be familiar to you, or if you're new to us, then they might be new. So let's introduce everyone. Louise, how about we start with you?
Hi everybody, I'm Louise Humphreys. I'm the marketing manager at the Dot in the Dot team. So thank you for joining today. You may well have seen our newsletter that I oversee, our blog, or follow one of our social media channels. We also have a monthly podcast that we actually just pushed out on our social media today, Raising the Dots. So they're all great ways to stay in touch.
All right, and yeah, I hope you'll tune in to the podcast. Keen to hear thoughts about that. Let's also introduce Anat.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, everybody. Anat Nulman. I'm the U.S. country manager based in the Bay Area in California. It's great to see a few familiar names on the list. Thank you for joining us again, and welcome to anybody who is new. I see that we have several of our distributors, so thank you guys for joining. Questions, if you have any questions, the best way to do it is to include them virtually in Q&A. Luis, is that correct? Is that Q&A? We have a chat here.
There's a Q&A should be here.
Yeah, the Q&A is the best place, I think. Yeah,
It's the best place, and we'll address them as we go.
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, if you pop your question in there, and we'll try and get through as many of those as possible. The idea with these sessions is we usually try and do a bit of demo, and then we come to your questions a little bit later on. So just pop any questions in the Q&A. And finally, from Dot, last by no means least, we are also joined by Gary. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary, Dot's Technical Support Manager, and again, thanks for coming on the webinar. Really glad you're here.
All right. Hopefully, Gary will help us out if we have any technical questions. Right. Okay. So with introductions out of the way, let's focus on our topic today. And if you're new to Dot, or you're new to these webinars, Dot's flagship product right now is, of course, the DotPad X, which is a tactile information display capable of showing multiline braille or tactile graphics. And for those of you with some vision, I'm just going to switch cameras now and show you the DotPad on screen. So hopefully we have that visible. And the dot pad has two display areas. So the multi-line display has 2,400 dots, which can be used for showing multiple lines of braille in any code for any subject. And then at the bottom edge of the dot pad, we have our 20-cell braille reading line. And the difference between these two areas, other than their size, is the fact that in the multi-line area, the dots are equidistant from one another, and that means that when we're showing graphics, that a triangle feels like a triangle, right? And so you get that more accurate tactile graphic representation. But it does mean that when you're reading braille, that braille characters are just ever so slightly further apart. And when I first used dotpad, I think for about the first 5 seconds I noticed that, but once I got reading, that distance really is not a showstopper. And then on the 20-cell braille reading line, that is exactly the proportions that you expect with braille, so that meets the specifications required for braille. And often the reading line will show you a tactile graphic description, alt tag, or other information relating to what is shown on the multi-line. So if you're using dotpad with JAWS, for example, you do get status information on the single reading line. Well, today we're going to be talking just about reading and reading books specifically, and dotpad is a great option for that, because this device measures just 9 by 11 inches, weighs about 2.5 pounds, fits in a backpack or satchel, and can be carried around with you. So it's a great portable multi-line braille reading option. And finally, just for anyone who's new to dotpad, on the right hand side we've got our power switch indicated with a braille letter P, and over on the left hand side our data port there indicated with a braille letter D. Now right now I'm connected via Bluetooth, so dotpad has Bluetooth low energy built in, which means I can connect to my phone or my tablet or my laptop. And I have downloaded and installed the free DotBook app. This is a relatively new app, I think it's fair to say, from Dot. And the DotBook reading app really is designed for reading BRF files on the dotpad. So if you have braille formatted files that are in the BRF format, then you can import those into the dotbook app, and you have a little library on screen, and you're able to browse that library and open your books and read them. So I'm just going to show you that now. So,
file list ABC of UEB.
Okay, so
1708 status
I'm
bar
just
item.
in dotbook.
Set it. Mobile service 2 of 4
1
bars.
second.
Drive switching root back button.
Okay, so
Settings,
here
button.
we are.
Library settings button. Settings
Oh.
done button.
We'll look in settings
Done
in a second.
button.
So
Done.
this
Settings,
is
button.
what happens when you download and you install your DotBook app. You can set up a free account, and that will let you store your braille files in the cloud if you want to do that. And then as you bring files into dotbook, they appear in this list. So this is the library. This is my library at the moment. So I'm just going to flick through. I've got VoiceOver running. This is an iPhone 15 Pro. I'm running iOS 2026.5. So I'm just going to flick through to the right.
File list Alice B Harry Potter Lord of the Rings PS 0 program 20 cell BRC 021 program 20 cell.
Okay, and then I've got an item there called program 20 cell, and that has been formatted specifically for a 20 cell braille display, which dotpad can show 20 cells per line, and then between 8 and 10 lines per page. We'll look at that in a second, but let me just open this book now just so we can have a quick look.
Close button.
Okay, and so now on my dotpad I've got the content of my file, and one of the benefits, I think, of reading a BRF file from dotbook is the fact that DotBook remembers your reading position. So you are put back exactly where you were last time. And that's not always the case. Those of us used to reading electronic braille know that, if you open a Microsoft Word document or something in Notepad, you don't always get back exactly. I think things have improved in recent years, but still not perfect. But I do find that with DotBook, it drops me back exactly where I was reading last time. And then I can use, so we've got these 6 navigation keys between the display areas, the arrow keys on the outside, and then function keys 1 to 4. These are the oval keys. And if I press F4, I get the next page of text, the next braille page. Now, right now, I have my dot pad showing 10 lines of braille. So I'm getting up to 200 characters of braille appearing at a time. And as I press the button, it takes less than a second to refresh that entire page. And then at the very bottom on the single braille reading line, I can feel the braille page number of where I am in my document. So it says 95/130. And as I go forward and I get my next page, it's now 96 of 130. And so I can skip back with F1, a page of braille at a time, and I can skip forward with F4, a page at a time. So really quite straightforward and simple to use. And I'm sure there will be lots of requests for features and things like bookmarking. Those things are not there just yet. We need to understand how people want to use DotBook. As I said, it's still a relatively new app, but it is stable. And I'll just take you through some of the settings. So I'm just going to come out of my book.
Close button.
There's a close button in the top left of my screen.
Close.
So
Program 20 cell.
that.
BRF. Library. Setting. Back. Button. Settings. Button.
Okay.
Settings. Done. Button.
I'll jump into settings. I'm just going to flick through here. I'm not going to talk about all of these, but some of the ones that you may want to think about configuring just to optimize your braille reading experience. So I'm just going to flick right.
Settings. Heading. Device connection. Heading. Device connection. Dotpad 320x_1000.
Okay, so that's the first button you come to is your device connection, and so when you switch Dotpad on, it becomes discoverable. So it's broadcasting its Bluetooth name, and so when you want to use DotBook, you come in here, you click on the device connection button, and your iOS or iPadOS device will see the Dotpad, and then you can double tap on the name of your Dotpad, identified by the last 4 digits of the Bluetooth name, which is displayed in both tactile print and braille on Dotpad, and you're able to connect there.
Braille language. English. Grade 2. Button.
The next option is where we choose our braille language. I'm using English grade 2. You might prefer to use a different braille code. By default now, the Dot apps are tending to use LibLouis, which is an open source braille translation library that many organizations around the world are contributing to, and LibLouis is getting better and better all the time.
Text to speech. Switch button. On.
Okay, we've got some text to speech options. So that's if you were to open a Daisy book with DotBook. I'm not going to be looking too much at that this session because we're talking about Braille specifically. But if you wanted to open a Daisy book, it would need to be Daisy to perform any audio functions.
Word wrapping. Switch button. On.
Okay, and there's our all-important word wrapping settings. So if you wanted to just get as much braille as you can on per line, you might choose to turn that off. I find that makes reading, particularly contracted braille, a little bit awkward, so I've switched this on. I think it might even have been on by default, and that allows DotBook to wrap at an appropriate point when it encounters a space in your text.
Speed. Heading.
Okay, and then we've got some more settings here that relate to audio.
TTS rate slider. 0. Listen. Button. Text size. Heading.
And then we come to text size. So this is the visual settings about how content appears on screen.
Small button. Selected. Medium button. 2 of 3. Large button. 3 of 3.
And as you heard, I have medium selected.
Color heading.
And then you can choose some color settings.
Light mode button. 1 selected. Dark mode button. Number of braille lines heading.
And then this is quite new, this number of braille lines setting that we come to. So I'll just let you hear the options.
6 lines button. 1 of 4.
Okay, so you can have just 6 lines displayed, and so that will give you a little bit of extra space in between your braille lines, perhaps helpful if you're new to reading braille and you're still developing those all-important braille tracking skills, so giving you a little bit of extra space between lines.
7 lines button. 2 of 4.
You can have 7.
8 lines button. 3 of 4.
8, which I think is the default, and 8 lines is ideal if you're reading an 8-dot braille code. And then the final setting.
Selected. 10 lines button. 4 of 4.
10 lines. I'm reading Unified English Braille, which is a 6-dot braille code, and I want to get as much braille on there as I possibly can, and so I've chosen 10 lines. So that is everything in settings, I think.
Logout button.
Oh, there's a logout button. I'm not going to do that just now. But that's pretty much everything that you have in there. So do have a little explore. Let us know how you get on, and if there's something really obvious that you think is missing or that you would like to see in DocBook. So one of the questions that comes up is, how do you then get content into DocBook? And I've found that the easiest way for me is to save my BRF files to iCloud. You can do that in Windows or on the Mac or on your iPad, and then in the Files app on my iPhone, I then locate my BRF file, and then I can use the share sheet to send that to DocBook. And you can also import from within DocBook itself. So either find the file first and send it to the app, or go in the app and then pull the file in. I think you've got both options available to you there. So I'm just going to come out of settings.
82% battery power. Test done button. Program 20 cell.
Okay,
BRF.
and I'm now back to my list of files. Now, it's important to say that with BRF files, the BRF standard was really developed more for hard copy rather than electronic braille reading, and so it is possible that a BRF file that you may have from another source may be formatted for a different line length. Now, if you get your BRF files from Bookshare, I think you can choose the line length, and so if you're going to be reading a BRF on DotPad, then I would recommend that you choose 20 cells, because that's how many characters you can get per line on your DotPad. If you've already got a BRF that's been formatted for a different line length, it will display, but you may run into issues around reflowing. So you might recognize that as the short line, long line problem that can sometimes occur when you try to view BRF files on braille displays. And that's not an issue that's particular to DotPad. It is an issue that can occur on any braille device. And the good news is that help is on its way with that problem. The new eBraille file format that is being developed with the DAISY Consortium and the American Printing House and other partners around the world, one of the features of the new eBraille format will be the ability to reflow, to have your text reflow on your braille display. So we're looking forward to that standard being adopted in the future. I think the specification is now stable. I think 1.0 version 1 of that has been published. So we're now in a little bit of a chicken and egg situation where, you know, we need the libraries to produce the content and we need the tools to support the format. But I'm pretty sure that in the coming months, we're going to see much more about the new eBraille format. The other big benefit, well, a couple of big benefits of eBraille that we can look forward to. One is navigation. And so, as you've seen there, it's quite simple that you just go forward and backwards a page at a time in book. When eBraille is fully supported with navigation, you will have the ability to jump to the next section or next heading, obviously depending on how the book has been marked up. But BRF itself is quite a flat file format and doesn't contain clear structure to allow a software reading app to jump to the various sections of the file. So when eBraille comes along, we'll get better reflowing, we'll get better navigation, and we'll also get better integration with tactile graphics. So we're looking forward to that. So I'm just going to catch my breath. And I'm going to ask Gary to just remind you about how you can pop a question in, and then when I come back, we'll then take a little look at the Dolphin EasyReader app.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that. That's been very informative. Thank you, Dave. If you have questions about .book, you can put them into the FAQ that are in the webinar, and we'll take those questions and we will answer them for you. Just to remind you again that you can download .book from the App Store on iOS. So,
Gary, there are a couple of questions that you might be able to help with. If that's okay, we could try. So Matthew has said if he's using DotPad as a braille display with VoiceOver on his iPhone, will DotBook automatically take over, or does he need to disconnect from VoiceOver first? And if he needs to disconnect, is there an easy way to do this?
You will need to disconnect from VoiceOver first, because the DotBook app is a separate app and it takes control of the DotPad separately. The easiest way to do that is just to go into the DotPad, the VoiceOver settings, and do a forget device, and then you can have VoiceOver running whilst you then connect back to DotBook and connect your DotPad.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, one of the reasons is that in VoiceOver we get the braille reading experience that kind of Apple supports, and right now, for example, that wouldn't include, say, 10 lines of braille. So with connecting DotBook directly to DotPad, then DotBook is able to control the reading experience. So that's what I've just done. I've just closed DotBook now, and I've connected DotPad through the settings, accessibility, VoiceOver, braille. I haven't had to restart the DotPad. I've just literally closed DotBook from the app switcher and then jumped into settings. And I hope that in the future we can make that a kind of a smoother process, but it does literally take seconds to disconnect from one and then reconnect from the other. What I might do is carry on now, and then we'll take any further questions in just a few minutes. But it's a very good point to raise. That you've got to think about: is it my screen reader that's controlling the reading experience, or is it the app? And so in the case of EasyReader, Dolphin EasyReader, which is the other app we're going to take a quick look at today, EasyReader has access to I think around 40, might be more, accessible libraries from around the world, and you can download EPUB and DAISY and PDF and a range of file formats from accessible libraries from the UK, the US, and many other countries besides. So you can download the free Dolphin EasyReader app from the App Store, and then when you're in EasyReader, you can then connect your library membership. So, for example, I'm a member of the RNIB reading services in the UK, and I'm able to go into reading services, and they have tens of thousands of audiobooks that I'm able to download and listen to. And they also have an EPUB collection, which I'm able to download. And I can either have text to speech reading those books to me, or I can read them in Braille. But when I read them in Braille, VoiceOver is then responsible for the reading experience, in contrast with .book, where in .book it's .book that is in control of the reading experience. So here I am in the Dolphin EasyReader app, and I've got my book open. I've got the classic, the Time Machine by H.G. Wells.
His grey eyes shone and twinkled. The time traveller, for so it will be convenient. Cat I.
Okay, and we're at the beginning of that, section 1. So it says I, the Roman numeral I, and then on my dot pad it says, the time traveller, open brackets, for so it will be convenient to speak of him, close brackets, was expounding and it goes on. And this Braille is being translated by VoiceOver. We get 8 lines of Braille, and we're not able to change that. The Braille remains pretty much what you get from VoiceOver. I'm able to pan forward again with the F4 key, so I'm just going to press that, and I'm going to keep going. So I'm getting many more Braille pages
that is all right, said the
per
psychologist.
screen, and then you heard then VoiceOver start speaking as I moved to the next page. Now, obviously, that didn't happen in .book. So you might, when you're reading from EasyReader or Kindle or some other app where the screen reader is taking care of that reading experience, you might want to just do a 3-finger double tap to mute the VoiceOver speech. I can do that here.
Speech off.
And there you go. And then you would be able to read in peace and quiet without VoiceOver interrupting you. I'm going to put VoiceOver back on.
Speech on.
Okay. And I'm just going to jump into the EasyReader settings, because there are some options here that you might want to take care of just to optimize your Braille reading experience. So I'm just going to do that now.
Book options button.
Okay, so in the top right hand corner there's a button called Book Options. I'm going to double tap that.
Book options alert. Book options.
Okay.
Switch to Braille reader view button.
Okay.
Sleep timer button.
Okay.
Switch to Braille reader book options. Switch to Braille reader view button.
Okay, so Dolphin have included a setting here called Switch to Braille reader view. And this is intended to improve the scrolling in Braille so that you don't get stuck at the end of the page. Now, my experience there was I didn't get stuck at the end of the page. The EasyReader kept reading continuously. But if that doesn't happen for you, you may want to come and turn this setting on, and it will be remembered on a per book basis. Okay, so you need to switch that on, I think, for each book where you require the setting. I'm just going to pan forward, flick forward to the right.
Sleep timer button.
There's a sleep timer.
Where am I button.
Where am I?
Book information button.
Book information.
EasyReader help button.
EasyReader help.
Cancel button.
And that's everything in that dialogue. Okay, so you can find out your reading position, but you are going to have to jump up to that book options setting, and then you're going to have to go in there to get that information. It isn't a kind of a curated experience in the way that .book is able to show you, relatively how far through the book you are on the single Braille reading line. So I'm just going to come out of this dialogue here.
The time machine cap side 17 side menu button book navigation search button text settings audio settings text search book side menu book search text audio set book options button the time machine the book options the time
looking
book options
for
button
text settings.
audio settings text settings
Sorry,
button,
I
text
kept going
setting,
past
back button,
it. Apologies.
text settings heading.
Couldn't see for looking. Right. Okay. What I have found as well in my text settings is and I've done this in my Kindle reading app as well. If you are primarily a Braille reader, quite often one of your kind of requirements is you want to get as much Braille per page as you possibly can before you move to the next page, because it can be slightly jarring when the app jumps to the next page. So I've gone in here and I've minimized the font and the margins just to maximize how much text that I get on a page, and that then means that I have fewer interruptions when I'm reading longer passages of Braille. So hopefully just a few tips and tricks there for getting the best out of EasyReader. Something else you should know about EasyReader as well is the additional options that it adds to the VoiceOver rotor. So these are primarily audio, but I'll just show them to you anyway. I'm just going to come out of this dialogue.
Play.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay, so when you're listening to a book, you can turn the rotor, and then that will change, of course, what the vertical flick does. So that's a setting to let you move by 2 minutes at a time.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Book default.
Book default.
Page.
Page.
Heading 1 only.
Heading 1. So these are navigation settings. So if you wanted to skip through by different units, obviously, if you're reading an EPUB, then that does give you that extra navigation flexibility that you're able to jump between sections.
Audio speed.
And then there's an audio speed setting there as well. Again, if you were listening to a book rather than reading it in Braille. So that's it. Just a little very quick glimpse, really. If you have a BRF, I'm not sure that BRFs are supported in EasyReader just yet. You may want to read that with .book. If you would like to have 10 lines on your .pad at a time, then .book may be the way to go. And if it's important to you that the experience is controlled by .book and you want to be able to feel just on the single Braille reading line your current reading position, then again .book might be a good option. If you have a library membership and you want to access a wider range of content in a wider range of formats with some of those extra navigation capabilities, then Dolphin EasyReader could well be the best option for you to do that if you're happy for VoiceOver to take care of the Braille reading experience. So always pros and cons with all of these things. And what we'll do then, I think, is open it up for your questions about reading on .pad using .book or EasyReader, or even just kind of reading, more generally. Love to know how you're using your .pad.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So we've got some common questions, so asked by more than one person. So both Elijah and Derry have asked about .pad X and .book being compatible with Android and TalkBack. Is it only available on iOS?
Yes, that's right. It is at this point. So .book is available as a native iOS app, and also you can use .book on the web in your web browser. Currently, there isn't right now today support on Android, but obviously that's something we're very keen to continue working with Google on behind the scenes. So as soon as there's any news or progress on that, we will of course let everybody know.
Okay, brilliant. So Matthew has asked, would we consider adding a feature to .pad to broadcast two device IDs, one for VoiceOver and one for the .apps, so that I can toggle the connection from the dot pad itself rather than through the iPhone settings?
It's a great suggestion, one which we will certainly pass on to the development team. I don't know if it's technically feasible with the current architecture, but certainly as a user and a reader myself, jumping between some of these apps and the screen reader, we do need to find ways of making that experience a little bit smoother. So yeah, definitely well received, and we'll pass that on. As I said, I'm not sure if it's feasible, but we'll certainly ask the question.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Derry has commented, when I use EasyReader and Bookshare reading an EPUB book, the F4 function 4 button does not move continuously every so often, so you have to press pan forward. Is that something you've experienced?
So this is where the setting, Derry, try. So when you go to the book options button in that top right-hand corner, and Dolphin has this braille reading mode that they've introduced, I think, relatively recently. Might be worth checking if that makes any difference. Try reading with and without that setting enabled, and do keep us posted about your findings there, and crucially let Dolphin know as well.
He said he does have the braille reading mode turned on.
Right, okay. And do you get the same behavior when it's turned off? And does it only happen with a specific title, or does it happen with all titles? So I suppose there's a bit to dig in there. Gary, do you want to, from a technical support perspective, is there anything to add?
No, I think that is, but it is worth checking it with some different titles, because it may be different depending on which title you're reading and depending on what format you're using. So again, keep us posted, Derry, and we will actually raise those issues. And as Dave says, it's well worth talking to Dolphin about that as well.
Okay. Yeah, Derry's, I guess, final comment. I have downloaded a few books and sent one of them to Kindle, and it read fine. So perhaps, Derry, maybe it's worth us picking up with you offline, and we'll see if we can troubleshoot with you on the specific issues that you're experiencing. Okay. There's a few more questions that have come in. I might just start at the top. You did briefly touch on this, Dave, at the start, but Matthew has asked, when will DotPad introduce support for the new DAISY e-Braille standard? Do we have a specific timeline, I guess, is the question.
It's on the plan. There isn't a date at this point, but I can assure you that it is an active area of development coming very, very soon. Is the most I can share at this point, but it's very high on our radar.
Okay, brilliant. Kim has asked, what happens when you read with the DotPad on iOS with the BRF feature in Braille access? How usable is that with DotPad?
So, Gary, you might want to chime in here. I have not found any multi-line support in Braille access, but that may have changed very recently.
So that's exactly what I would say. You're only getting single line support at the moment, and again, that would depend on what Apple. That's in the Apple domain. So at the moment, you're probably better off using one of the apps that we've just been mentioning today if you want multi-line support, which is obviously the best way.
Yeah. So what tends to happen in Braille access mode is that you get the Braille access mode output on the single line of the DotPad on the reading line, and then the regular, wherever VoiceOver's focus happens to be in iOS on the multi-line. So, if you were in your messages or wherever when you invoked the Braille access mode. So that's the way I've observed Braille access mode working at this juncture. But yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it, if we could have those BRFs appearing on the multi-line display. And so well, I know that we have been talking with Apple
Apple are
about
aware,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Tim's been in touch about that. But if that's something that's important to you, do drop a note into accessibility at apple.com as well. Just just help kick this up the priority list.
Okay. Elijah's asked an interesting question. Will EasyReader display graphics in a Daisy book display as tactile graphics? So did I phrase that right? Will EasyReader display images in Daisy books as tactile graphics?
We would love it if it did. Not yet, I think
I
is
think
the
eBraille's the
short
answer to
answer.
that.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think when eBraille comes along in EasyReader, our hope is that that would then become possible. But today, unfortunately, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it is worth just mentioning that as well as the reflow, you do get images as well in eBraille. So that will enable you to have text and images in the same book and be able to see those on a dot pad. So we look forward to when that is up and running.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Dallas has asked, can you transfer the files to the dot pad from a desktop computer or laptop? I'm looking at the possibility of checking out equipment for students.
Okay, so DotPad is a display, and so you need to connect DotPad to a screen reader or an app in order to display content. So you don't actually transfer the file to the DotPad itself, like the DotPad doesn't have internal storage. So you've got a couple of options there. If you're on a desktop, if you're using Windows, you can display content on DotPad using a screen reader like JAWS or NVDA. Both have support for DotPad, and we have certainly covered, I think, the JAWS support in quite a bit of detail in one of our previous webinars. And then the other option you have on the desktop is to use .canvas to display tactile graphics, and that works in a web page. So you go to apps.dotincorp.com, and then you can connect .canvas to your .pad and send content that way. The other option you have is to perhaps put content on a mobile device, which might be an iPhone or an iPad, or maybe even a Braille Sense we heard recently. That's coming soon. So if I receive a BRF, for example, put that in my iCloud folder in Windows, and then it appears in my Files app on my phone, and I can then open that BRF, for example, in .book. So you've got a few options there depending on what other equipment you have available to you, and and what your requirements are and the skills of the person using it. So, but just to be really clear, the DotPad is a display. It's not it's not a tablet or a note taker.
Okay, great. Thank you. Last question that we've got right now is from Diana. So she has asked, does dot book read other formats than BRF? And if yes, do they display in contracted or uncontracted Braille?
So you can open Daisy in DotBook, and the Braille code will be whatever you choose in the settings. So earlier I just had a little scoot through the settings. I had English Grade 2 selected, but you can choose your Braille code from there.
Perfect.
And I believe it will open plain text as well, but just that might be obvious, but it will do that.
Okay, that's the end of the questions.
All right. Well, that's
are
great.
right now.
If
Well,
I
thank
may
you.
add to a question before the last one from, I believe it was from school. We do have some custom solutions for education, and I would like to encourage you to reach out to us, and we can schedule separate conversation to discuss those solutions in more detail.
Yeah, so you can do things like connect your computer to multiple dot pads and things like that might be helpful in some of those scenarios. So yeah, do drop a note into info@dotincorp.com, and we'll give that email address again at the end. And if you've got things that you want to follow up on from this session, Gary, anything particular that you do when it comes to reading? I mean, I use a bit of a mix of all of these apps depending on where the content has come from and what format it's in. I have to say I do quite a bit of Kindle, but I appreciate Kindle. Most of what you have in there is going to be probably purchased. It's a great way of getting a new book. I recently got this book about accessibility and the ethics of accessibility, which was just released in recent weeks, and I was able to get that in Kindle. You can, of course, import PDF files as well into Kindle.
Yeah.
Do you have a preferred reading app, Gary?
Well, I think I'm with you with Kindle actually, because that's only because I have a lot of Kindle books which I have had for a long time, and now I can read them on the dot pad. So I've got a Kindle library, so I use Kindle. But if I have a BRF, I will be reading that in dot book because of the 10 lines. So it's nice to get as much braille on the dot pad as possible. So I would be reading that in dot book to get the extra braille.
All right. Well, if we don't have any further questions, then we'll perhaps look to wrap up and just let you know that currently, touch wood, a little exclusive for you, we are hoping that in June, our webinar is going to be about developing for the dot pad. Like, how would you go about spinning up your own project if you had an idea for an app or an experience that you would like on the dot pad? And we'll be sharing some examples of people who've done exactly that. So we do hope that you will join us in June. I think the date that we've got marked on our calendar is the 22nd of June, Louise?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well remembered. Yeah, 22nd of June. So we'll be sending out the invitation in the next week or so for that one.
Indeed. And we're also going to be out and about in the coming weeks as well. Next week, for example, Dot will be at Site City in Frankfurt in Germany. So we do hope that you'll come along and meet the team and get hands-on with the Dot Pad. Bring, your questions or suggestions and that kind of thing if you're going to be at Site City. And then I think in June we're going to be with the Daisy Consortium in Norway, and then we've got more events in the US, Anna, coming up as well.
Sure. We will be in about a week. We will be at Vision Serve Alliance. Then we will be at Braille Institute Braille Challenge Finals. We're very honored to sponsor this event. And then we will be at the summer conventions at NFB and ACB, followed by AER. And then later in the year, we have more events, but we can tell you about those later.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Dave, if you wouldn't mind me asking one more question.
Yep.
So Elijah has asked, does the Dot-Pad X have a skin to protect the pins?
It does. It does. So DotPad X comes supplied with a cell protector. This is a very thin sheet that is stretched over the pins, and it stops any ingress, so any dust or dirt from getting inside. So it protects your investment. It doesn't impair your reading. I forget it's there, quite honestly, most of the time. We expect that cell protector to last probably around a year, depending on how much you use it. And then in the box, you get 3 spare cell protectors. So it is user replaceable. We can provide instructions on how to do that. if it's needed. But for the most part, you're not going to need to do that. And of course, if you need additional cell protectors, talk to us, let us know about that. But yes, there is, and that makes DotPad super reliable, because we know that these devices have got to work in all sorts of different environments, and of course your skin and your hands have a little bit of kind of oil in your skin and things like that, and that's usually the reason why a lot of braille devices in the end need a bit of maintenance. And so we find that the cell protector makes DotPad very robust and durable for the long term. All right, I think that is it from us today. Thank you so much for your company. Some really great questions. Happy reading. Let us know what you're reading and how you're using your DotPad. Let me extend our wishes for a very happy Global Accessibility Awareness Day, which is coming up just around the corner. And I'll just quickly run round, see if any of the team have got anything final to add. Gary?
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Anat?
We're looking forward to connecting with you at our next webinar on June 22nd, as well as at any of the events that we're attending globally. Or you're welcome to just send us an email if you have any questions or need anything, which is info@dot.inc. Sorry, .incorp, incorp.com.
Indeed. info@dotincorp.com, or even visit our blog.dotincorp.com, where you can find out the details of all those events where we're going to be in the next little while. Louise, anything final from you?
Just to say thank you everybody for attending. We will send a copy of this recording out this week. We'll also post it on our YouTube channel. So if you know anyone who may be interested in watching on catch up, please do share. Otherwise, we'll see you in June.
Alrighty. Well, from myself, Dave Williams, and the rest of the team at Dot, until next time, bye for now.